I'm Sarah Wilson and you're listening to the Roots and All podcast. I'm here to help you get growing. Join me as I explore everything plant related both indoors and out and provide the information you need to create your perfect green environment. Today I'm speaking to Terry Woods of Fox-A-Gon. I'm going to be completely honest with you, I don't know how to preface this interview in a way that does it justice. I'm a bit of a cynical, miserable so-and-so, and I find it really easy to lose faith in my fellow humans. But every now and then I meet someone like Terry, who is a genuine bloody hero. And listening back to the interview was interesting because when I spoke to Terry in person, I could see the little twitches at the corner of his mouth where he was smiling in spite of himself. And I could see the compassion and kindness in his face when he spoke. And I really hope that comes through in the audio because I suspect Terry's built up a bit of a veneer throughout his years of dealing with arseholes and prejudice against animals. It must get wearing defending animals day in, day out, but I want to say to all of you and to Terry that I genuinely believe the times they are a-changing, so don't give up fighting for those who can't fight for themselves. You'll be on the right side of history in the end. Thank you, Terry, for joining me. Just to start with, could you tell me how you got into this line of work?
I've always admired foxes and nature in general, and I worked for the Fox Project for 7 or 8 years as an ambulance driver.
And what does your company do? How are you different from other companies that might claim to remove foxes?
We work with our wildlife, mainly foxes and badgers, but we don't harm anything. So we solve people's wildlife problems without harming the animals.
Okay, and what is it that other companies might do with the foxes? If someone phoned up and had a fox problem, how might their treatment of the foxes differ to yours?
Oh, they'll either shoot them in the garden there and then, or they'll trap them and then shoot them captive.
Right.
That's it. That's their only answer to the problem.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about the law surrounding foxes? I mean, I'm surprised, I suppose, that you're allowed to shoot things under any circumstances, really, but presumably it's legal to kill foxes, and do you have to have a licence to do it? Can you, say, destroy their dens, or what's the actual law surrounding it?
Well, the law surrounding it is you cannot be cruel to a wild mammal. So you can't be cruel to a fox, yet you could dispatch a fox humanely. Now, I'd argue that you can't kill anything humanely. I don't agree with this humane term we use as a convenience for when we want to kill things. So they are protected by numerous wildlife laws, but they leave a big hole through it that you can drive a bus through, I suspect, to enable people to hunt foxes.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. So if it was just one fox that you were trying to control, presumably people, as you say, will either shoot or trap and shoot them. If it was a whole family of them, are there laws to stop you actually destroying their home?
Yes, there are, but again, it's interpretation, and with many things, it's who's going to police it, which leaves it to people like us to police it and then contact the relevant authorities to report a crime and then rely on the authority being bothered to act. Same with lots of things in life. It's getting somebody to be active that's the key.
I used to work on a big estate and we had a lot of problems. We had poachers and, we'd find bodies of animals in the woods and we suspected that it wasn't natural causes that had got to them. And the only person who seemed to have any sort of interest in the area was somebody attached to the police who was a wildlife support officer, I think his title was.
Wildlife crime officer.
So presumably in the countryside, they're the people who are sent to deal with those kind of things when they happen. Is that the same in towns or...?
Well, the trouble is, in the countryside, you'll find they're in allegiance with the gamekeepers and probably the local hunt, which is obviously a conflict of interest, and it's not what they're supposed to do. But you can't stop what goes on behind closed doors. But it's the same in towns. It's the local wildlife crime officer. Of course, there are very few of them nowadays.
So talking of fox hunting, I mean, one of the justifications for it is that it controls a population of foxes in a specific area. Do they actually need controlling?
Well, put it this way. Most hunts, in fact, probably all of them, but many of them have been exposed for doing it, actually breed foxes because there aren't enough foxes for them to hunt in the areas they hunt in. So I suggest that probably answers that question.
Okay. So you're of the opinion, really, that the fox hunters are not drag hunting as they say they are when they're going out?
Oh, they openly hunt foxes.
Right.
Because the police just won't police the act.
Yeah.
Because they're generally people of privilege and clout within their own hunting areas.
I do see a lot of that where I live, for sure. So anyway, moving aside from horrible people who want to kill foxes for fun, I've got something in my garden at the moment and I do love seeing them. Is it a good idea for me to put out food for them?
My easy answer to that would be to say no, but it's not a question that's got an easy answer to it. You don't really help foxes by feeding them, simply because you then bring them into conflict with people that don't like them. And most people that don't like them don't know why they don't like them. They probably don't like squirrels and pigeons, probably not even hedgehogs, but they're very selective about what they like and what they dislike. So feeding the fox sometimes brings them into conflict with people like that. How can I judge? I leave bits and pieces out for the foxes. I mean, here where we're sitting now, in 3 hours' time, there'll be 3 foxes sitting here, not waiting for me to feed them. Just this is where they live for the short period, because we're now into dispersal season. So the 2 cubs that are still with mum, I mean, I hear them at night. She's trying to kick them out to go and find their own territory.
Right. Yeah, I had the same thing, actually. I did start putting food out for my foxes, and then I went onto your frequently asked questions on the website, and it said, actually, probably don't do it. And then I did it because she turned up with these 2 cubs and they were such little scraps of things, and she looked so sort of worn out that I thought, oh, well, I'll stick a bit out for them. But as you say, I need to be careful of my neighbours. Not everybody's as understanding as I am. So, yeah, I do get that. So if they're left to feed themselves, what is their diet, really?
They're true omnivores, so they'll eat virtually anything. So worms, slugs, invertebrates, fruit, roots, anything that flies, they catch them, moths, and then larger mammals, rabbits, birds, voles, mice, rats, just about anything.
So they're actually a really good predator for us to have in our gardens.
They really maintain the balance of nature.
Yeah.
And the thing is, people go, we need a fox cull. Within a month or two, they'll be going, we need a rat cull. And of course, let's just leave nature alone and let it work its wonders.
I did hear, actually, someone said fox populations don't tend to overpopulate. They're quite good at regulating themselves. Is that correct?
That's correct. They're excellent at it. I mean, the mortality rate is up to 60% amongst our foxes anyway. So they're sort of on a knife edge as far as survival. But they do generally breed up. So if they lost a large number last year, vixens tend to have bigger litters this year. So it's pointless culling them, really. They're very successful amongst us, which is something you can't say about many creatures.
So talking of mortality rates, how much of that is accounted for with road accidents? Is that quite high, or is that just a blip on it, really?
No, it's quite high. I mean, no one's ever done any study on exactly how many have been killed. But like I said, we're now into dispersal season where the vixens are kicking out the cubs. And today I've seen 7 dead young foxes on the road.
Yeah, it's a shame. Talking of what they eat, I notice mine eat bird food. They're quite good at scrabbling around under my bird feeder. And also a talk that I went to recently said that they will go, if you're using animal-based products in your garden, such as bloodfish and bone, they'll be more likely to come in and start digging if that's around. Have you come across that?
It does happen. I think you'll find that's more in a rural, semi-rural situation rather than an urban situation. Urban foxes have got so much to eat, they really not into digging for scraps. What's more likely where people say that is where they've got an abundance of food and they're hoarding it. So they're digging in your pots and hiding an egg, or digging in your pots and hiding a chicken wing.
Oh, right.
It does happen, but there's more than one reason
Right.
for foxes digging in your garden.
Well, I mean, in my garden, the area where they enter the garden is along sort of one side of the fence. And the plants that I've planted in that area, they've come along and a lot of them they've uprooted. And I think probably that was the cubs. They do dig up plants, I suppose. Is that, well, newly planted
They're having
plants?
fun.
They're just having fun. I thought they might be, yeah.
Cubs just love to have fun.
Yeah, I guessed as much. In fact, my partner got a football and put it out there for him because he thought, it might give him some entertainment. But
slippers and gloves and things. And
slippers and gloves. That's good distraction tactics.
yeah, you can watch them throwing them around.
Brilliant. All right. Actually, on that subject, are there any cameras that you've used or you recommend for people if they do want to watch their foxes?
Well, you use wildlife trap camera. I mean, there are a multitude now made in China. We use professional ones from Bushnell, which we find to be the most reliable. The others can be less reliable. And of course, we need something to be totally reliable. And even then, they're not totally reliable, but we find they're more predictable.
Yeah.
But you can buy them for £100 on the internet.
That's well worth it, I think. Also, I know a lot of people, I do garden maintenance, and a lot of people say to me, same with cats, how can I stop them using my garden as a toilet?
You can't.
No.
Really. I mean, you can get products, Get Off My Garden, which is a really good product for foxes. Not so good for cats and dogs, which it's marketed for. But the thing with foxes and their marking, you see, they do it because of their territorial nature. So, for example, they'll come to the end of the street where they go up an alleyway and they'll want to tell other foxes, this is my territory. So they'll poop. Just a little bit, but enough to be a nuisance. And then all night long, they'll crisscross their territories, scent marking to warn other foxes off.
Right.
And they'll do that in your garden. So if you've got a fruit tree and it's their food source, they will mark it. And typically, if I sometimes put a cat bowl out with leftover cat food in it, the fox will eat the cat food and then poo in the bowl.
Oh, yeah, I've had that. Yeah.
That's just to tell the other foxes, this is my bowl.
Oh.
I'm glad my family don't do the same thing.
Indeed. You can go down well. So the other thing that people worry about, I think, is, talking of cats and dogs and everything else. My cat, I've seen it playing with my fox. It loves it. My cat will play with anything. She's absolutely fearless. But people do say to me, oh, are they going to attack my cat? Are they going to cause problems for my dogs? What do you think about that?
Well, I've been studying cat and dog behaviour for, this will be the 17th year. I've never seen a fox get the better of a cat. Although I do get 2 or 3 reports a year. Bearing in mind I get reports from all over the country that someone's witnessed a fox fighting and killing a cat. Not many foxes will want to take a cat on. If a fox gets a cat claw in its face, that's an abscess, and it doesn't take itself to the vet. So the chances are, if it fights with a cat, it'll get an injury that it's not going to survive. And foxes are smart.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say at certain times of the year when vixens have got young cubs, tiny cubs, they will see a cat off. And I suppose if it comes into a full-blown scrap, then the cat may come off worse, because foxes, although they're not heavier than a lot of cats, certainly got bigger jaws and bigger teeth and bigger claws. So they're formidable as far as their weaponry goes, but they don't like fighting with cats.
I can't imagine any cat being that incentivised, any domestic cat being that incentivised to go after the foxes that persistently, really.
There's probably squabbles from time to time over a food bowl. I mean, I've witnessed foxes and cats squabbling over food. I've witnessed foxes and cats eating out of the same bowl at the same time. And I've witnessed foxes being sneaky how they're going to steal the cat's food. The whole gambit of what could happen. I think I've probably witnessed it. I've got 9 cats at the moment. They live with the foxes, and I'm not in the slightest bit worried about them interacting.
No, I'm not either. It doesn't bother me, but I know it is a concern for people.
I'd be upset if they did have an interaction. Obviously, one of my cats was killed by a fox, but it hasn't happened in 17 years.
No.
And that's probably 30 different foxes and nearly 30 different cats.
As you say, I suppose it's the first time for everything, but it's not going to be a common problem. Are they a danger to me or my children? Or
Generally, no.
No.
I mean, more people are killed by cows in this country than foxes. There's something like 13,000 people are hospitalised by their own dogs last year.
Wow.
Maybe one person was hospitalised by a fox, and that would have been only for tetanus.
Mm.
I've worked with foxes for years and years.